Okay, so I heard you wanted to learn how to make a door jamb. So in this video, we're going to show you all the steps that you need in order to replace a door jamb, to make a new door jamb for maybe a heritage door or something like that. Let's get right into it. Okay, so first step is you're going to have to take your door off of the hinges so that you can get all of the measurements you need to start cutting and routering out your door jamb. This is kind of a drawing of all of the measurements you're going to need in order to make your door jamb. So the first ones you start with are the total height and the total width of the door. As you see these blue lines, that would be total width, this would be total height. And write those two measurements down. Once you have those measurements, then we'll start taking measurements for the hinges. So all the measurements from the hinges we're going to take from the top of the door, because the bottom of the door usually has a gap to leave room for some airflow and also so it doesn't rub on the flooring at the bottom. So the top is our fixed point that we're going to take all our measurements from. So we're going to go top of door to the top of the first hinge, then we're going to go top of door to the top of the second hinge, and then we're going to go top of door to the top of the third hinge. So those are the three measurements we're going to have for our hinge side, and then we'll need one measurement for our striker plate here. So what we'll do is we'll go top of the door to the center of the strike plate, or the small hole that is on the doorknob side. So we will also need two more measurements, one from the edge of the door to the back of the hinge, and then the total width of the hinge as well. The door always has about an 1/8 inch gap away from the jamb, right? The goal is that the door does not hit the jamb, so we need to make sure that we make our door jamb bigger than the door. Okay, so let's figure out what sizes we need to cut these three pieces in order to make our door jamb. So we're gonna start with these two pieces because they're gonna get cut to the same size. So what we need is we need our total height of door. As you wrote that down before, you take that measurement. As you can see, I kind of drew out the door here. So this inner rectangle is the door slab. This section around it, the small one, is the 1/8 inch gap that we need so it's not touching the jamb. And then this right here would be the jamb material. As you can see, it's kind of, I laid it out with measurements as well. So you can kind of see how it's broken down. So because we're gonna try finding the side ones, what we need to do is we need to take our 80 inches, which is the actual door height. We need to add a 1/2 inch space for the bottom for that airflow and so it doesn't rub against the flooring, and then an 1/8 inch on the top for that 1/8 inch gap that we talked about before. So as you can see, our total when we add these three numbers up is 80 and 5/8. 80 and 5/8 is the measurement that we're going to use to cut these two pieces. So those two ones are done. So now we need to figure out what the width of this piece is going to be, or the length of this top piece is going to be. To start with the actual width of the door, then we need to add two more spaces on either side because there's jamb on both sides of this one. So that adds a 1/4 inch. So we're at 36 and a quarter. Then we also need to account for the top piece going over top of the side jamb pieces. So that's why I put another 3/4 and 3/4 there. So 3/4 and 3/4 equal 1.5 inches. 1.5 plus 36 and a quarter equals 37 and 3/4 inch. Now that you have all your measurements, you can cut your jamb pieces to length. You should have 3 total. Next step is to transfer all the measurements that we took and we measured onto the jamb. So as you can see, I laid them out and now I'm tracing my hinge onto those measurements. I basically just marked top of hinge and then traced it all the way around. Once it's traced, mark it up, then we can start routering. The hinge is supposed to sit flush with the jamb material. So as you saw, I set the depth on my router, went close to the line, and then edged up close to it with my chisel after. And now we got to put it all together. So make sure you put some glue into the connections, flush up the sides, put your pre-drill bit in first, and then you can throw the screws in and you have a jamb. There are a couple things I didn't include, and that is installing the door stop as well as drilling the hole for the striker plate. The reason I didn't go into that is because I like to do that at the door jamb installation process, and that will be a separate video. If you have any questions for the meantime, throw it in the comments below and I'll try answering it. Thanks.